Missing car. Driving is one of the most routine activities in everyday life, but as our first clip shows, the most ordinary drive can turn into a nightmare in a split second. One moment, you're cruising down the highway, admiring the scenery, and next, you find yourself witnessing something horrifying, something you can't quite comprehend. It's no wonder dashcam footage has become so popular in the horror community, capturing everything from terrifying accidents and near misses to unsettling, unexplained events. But in 2019, a particular clip surfaced that didn't just shock the internet with its disturbing visuals. It left behind a mystery that no one could explain. On December 30th, 2019, a motorist was driving along Highway 1 in San Francisco, California. This iconic stretch of road runs high above the Pacific Ocean, offering stunning coastal views. On a clear day, it's considered one of the most beautiful routes in the United States. But on this particular afternoon, for this particular driver, the breathtaking scenery would be shattered by a glimpse of something horrifying.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
A car, moving at high speed, suddenly veered off the road and disappeared over the edge of the cliff. It happened so fast that the driver could barely process it. Had they really just seen a car plummet off the cliffside? Or had their mind played tricks on them? Not willing to take any chances, they immediately called 911, reporting what they had just witnessed. But the truth would only be revealed once they checked their dashcam. The footage was short, but it confirmed what they had feared. A green SUV could be seen in the distance, speeding toward the cliffside, its brakes seemingly never engaged. And then, just before the clip ends, the vehicle appears to go airborne, vanishing over the edge. By the time authorities arrived, they quickly found evidence that the car had indeed gone over. Tire tracks in the sandy dirt led straight to the cliff's edge, a clear sign that something had gone off the road. But then, they noticed something that defied all logic. There was no vehicle in the water below. Immediately, search teams were deployed. Rescue boats scoured the area, searching for any trace of a car or a driver. But no wreckage was found, no body, no debris. Despite days, and eventually weeks, of thorough searching, only a few car parts surfaced. Yet even those didn't match the exact make and model of the SUV seen in the footage. Even stranger, despite the car being identified as a 2009 green Lexus SUV, no one ever reported a missing person linked to that type of vehicle. It wasn't a common car. It stood out. Yet despite the footage being broadcasted on the news and shared widely online, no one recognized the vehicle. With no missing persons cases connected to the incident and no physical evidence proving a vehicle had crashed, the investigation stalled. It was as if the car had simply disappeared into thin air. The bizarre nature of the case led to a wave of speculation online. Some suggested something supernatural had happened. Others theorized that the vehicle had hit the ocean at such a perfect angle that it had been completely swallowed by the waves, leaving no trace behind. But perhaps the most controversial theory was that the video itself was fake. Some believe the dashcam footage was an elaborate hoax, possibly CGI. Even experts examined the clip, trying to detect signs of digital manipulation, but no evidence of fakery was ever found. The footage was real, and yet it made no sense. With no leads, no explanations, and no car, the mystery slowly faded from the headlines. That is, until 5 months later. On the morning of April 29, 2020, a group of swimmers at Montara State Beach spotted something floating in the distance. As they got closer, the horrifying realization set in. It was a body. The remains were soon identified as Tracy Sinclair, a local woman who had been missing since late December 2019. Around the same time, the mysterious dashcam clip was recorded. When police reviewed her records, they made another shocking discovery. Tracy Sinclair had owned a dark green 2009 Lexus SUV. At last, there was an answer to who was in the vehicle, and, more importantly, proof that a crash had actually occurred. But this revelation only raised more questions. If Tracy had been missing this whole time, why was she never connected to the case? And perhaps the biggest mystery of all, where was her car? Despite this breakthrough, her Lexus SUV has never been found. Not a single verified piece of debris, not even a sunken wreckage, has ever been recovered. Given the absence of brake lights in the footage, many have speculated that Tracy's crash was intentional. But why she drove off that cliff, and why it took so long to connect her to the case, remains unknown. For some, the lingering questions still fuel speculation online. But for Tracy's family, there is at least some measure of closure. They now know what happened to their loved one, even if one part of the mystery will likely never be solved. Foster family. It was supposed to be a day of celebration for David Turpin and his wife Louise, yet another wedding anniversary marked by a family tradition, renewing their vows in Las Vegas. What made the moment even more special was that all 13 of their children were in attendance. When David and Louise were first married back in 1985, he was a 23-year-old man, and she was just 16. Despite the decades that had passed, their love still seemed to be going strong. And in a tradition that became almost ritualistic, they renewed their vows in nearly the same way every year, something that's been captured in multiple clips now scattered across YouTube. These videos didn't just show the couple's love for each other. They also appeared to show their love for their children. Together, they presented the image of a massive, close-knit family unit, the Turpins. Smiling faces, coordinated outfits, and sentimental moments painted a picture of unity and warmth. But that footage would only be the beginning of a much darker story. Not long after those family videos surfaced online, one of the Turpin daughters, who could be seen in that earlier footage, began posting videos of her own. She was just 17 at the time. Her name was Jordan Turpin, and she quietly launched a secret YouTube channel that no one else in her family knew about. On this channel, Jordan would post videos of herself singing original songs, recorded from her bedroom.
It's over, it's over, it's over.
In a few of those clips, she offered extremely brief, almost unnoticeable glimpses into her home life. To anyone scrolling by, her content seemed innocent, typical for a teenage girl. Her final video, like the others, was just another singing performance. And throughout the entire life of the channel, there were no obvious red flags, no direct cries for help. Jordan never really opened up to the camera. She didn't share personal stories or ask questions that might have revealed her true circumstances. She used the page solely for her music, which is exactly why it was almost impossible to detect the horrifying reality that lay behind those walls. What was happening inside the Turpin household had remained invisible for years, and would have likely continued for many more, had it not been for Jordan's courage. Just 1 week after posting her final video, Jordan made a desperate 911 call.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
I just got away from home because I live in a family of 15. We have abusing parents. Did you hear that? They hit us, they throw us across, they like to throw us across the room. They pull our hair, they yank out our hair. My 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
In the call, recorded and released later, we hear Jordan explain to the dispatcher that her parents had been abusing her, along with all of her siblings. Given the severity of her claims, police immediately dispatched an officer to her location. Jordan had fled the house and was waiting in a nearby neighborhood. The entire encounter was captured on the officer's body camera.
What's going on?
Okay. I just ran away from home.
Okay.
And I live in a family of 15.
Okay.
My 2 little sisters right now are chained up.
They're chained up?
Yes,
Where are they chained up at?
on their bed. They're chained up because they stole mother's food.
Okay.
But they stole it because they were hungry.
Jordan explained that 2 of her siblings were currently chained to their beds, punished for trying to take food from their mother. Even more disturbing, Jordan confessed that her nervous, awkward behavior was because she had never really met anyone from the outside world before.
Sorry if I talk too much. I've never talked to anybody out there, so I've never been alone with a person, so it's very hard for me to talk.
In order to escape and get help, she had to literally flee her own home, something she had never been allowed to do.
And the reason I managed to get out here, this is one of the most scariest things I've ever done. I'm terrified.
At first, the officer seemed unsure. He even asked if Jordan was on medication, a question that confused her deeply.
Do you take any medication?
What's medication?
Medication?
Yeah, what's medication?
Do you take pills? Do you take pills?
She responded honestly, saying she didn't know what that word meant. That moment changed everything. The officer began to understand the gravity of the situation. Jordan had brought proof with her, images and evidence of the abuse.
I don't have proof of everything, but I have proof that my sisters are chained up. Look at them. See, those are the places that make it on that. And see how dirty she is? We're so filthy. We don't take baths. We don't.
How did your sisters get like this? Your parents chained them up?
Yes.
What followed was one of the most shocking discoveries in recent memory. That same night, police entered the Turpin home and uncovered the full extent of the nightmare. Inside, they were hit with an overwhelming stench of garbage and human waste. The floors and surfaces were filthy, almost entirely covered in trash. They found 12 other siblings inside. One of them had been chained up for weeks. 2 others had just recently been released. The children were malnourished, frail, and covered in bruises from years of beatings. Many of them were so stunted from abuse that officers couldn't even tell their ages. One sibling was 29 years old, but weighed only 89 pounds and was mistaken for a child. They had been fed once a day and only in small portions. They were each allowed to shower just once a year. The abuse inflicted by Louise and David Turpin was beyond comprehension. But perhaps the most heinous act of all was committed by Louise herself. Multiple reports stated that she had prostituted several of her own children to wealthy men for money. Throughout their entire lives, the children were locked inside the house, tortured by the very people who claimed to love them. And all the while, the family maintained a carefully curated online image, photos, and videos portraying them as a perfect, happy unit. Which brings us back to those YouTube clips. You might wonder, how were the kids allowed to attend those weddings if they were never permitted to leave the house? Well, those vow renewal ceremonies were likely the only times the children were allowed outside. Not as a reward, but as a performance, a cover story, a way to sell the illusion of a happy family to the world. The smiling faces in those clips? Those were likely some of the only moments of freedom the Turpin children ever experienced. As for Jordan's YouTube channel, the reason it was so secret was because any form of contact with the outside world was strictly forbidden. Social media, TV, the internet, all banned. If her parents had discovered her account, the punishment would have been unimaginable. But that didn't stop her. Jordan kept uploading, maybe hoping that someone, anyone out there would see her, hear her, know she existed. In many ways, those quiet uploads showed the incredible bravery she carried within her. The same bravery that would lead her to risk everything, to escape, expose the truth, and save her siblings. Without her, they would likely still be imprisoned today. The full case of the Turpin family is too complex to fully unpack here. But eventually, David and Louise went to trial and were sentenced to life in prison. The 13 children, forever scarred by what they endured, were finally free. At least, they were supposed to be.
A foster family in Paris has been accused of abusing several foster children, including some of the Turpin siblings.
In what might be the most tragic twist in an already devastating story, it was recently revealed that the foster family assigned to care for 5 of the Turpin children is now under investigation for abuse. The foster parents, Marcelino and Rosa Orgon, along with their son Lenny, are facing over a dozen charges, including child cruelty, witness intimidation, and false imprisonment. Even more disturbing, Marcelino is accused of performing lewd acts on a minor, allegedly molesting 2 of the children he was supposed to protect. It's almost too much to process that these kids, after escaping one house of horrors, would find themselves trapped in another. But amid the tragedy, there is still a glimmer of hope. Some of the Turpin children have begun building lives of their own, lives free from abuse. Jordan, in particular, has become a TikTok star, thriving in her newfound freedom and connecting with the world she was once kept from. So no, not all of this story is completely devastating, but some of it absolutely is. And for the rest of the Turpin siblings, we can only hope they are finally placed in a home full of love, one that offers them the peace, safety, and care they've been denied since the day they were born. It's heartbreaking to think that such things can happen behind closed doors, right at home, in the one place that's meant to feel safe, the Red Lake. Our next case takes us to an environmental anomaly. Unlike any other tucked away on the outskirts of Mitsero, Cyprus, lies a striking body of water known as Red Lake. As its name suggests, the lake is an eerie shade of red, though its appearance shifts throughout the year. Sometimes, it gleams a bright crimson. At other times, it takes on a much darker, almost blood-like hue. This unusual coloration is the result of mineral deposits in the soil, combined with runoff from a long-abandoned mine nearby. Decades ago, the site was used for extracting iron ore and gold, but operations ceased in the 1950s, leaving behind a toxic legacy. The contaminants permanently altered the water's composition, making it so dangerous that swimming is strictly forbidden. Some have even referred to it as an acid lake, warning that prolonged exposure could have harmful effects. Yet, despite its dangers, Red Lake has become a magnet for extreme tourism. The unsettling beauty of the water continues to draw curious visitors, many of whom have captured breathtaking footage of the site. One such example is a video from the YouTuber 2 Wheels for Rotors. The video features a stunning aerial view of the lake, filmed by drone. The deep red water and the surrounding desolate landscape create an almost otherworldly image, unlike anything seen elsewhere. But while most choose to observe the lake from a safe distance, others have ventured dangerously close. Among them was YouTuber Sarah Funk.
I discovered that there is a red lake called Mitsero. It's about 20 kilometers from Nicosia. Most people don't even know it exists. We're gonna go check it out.
In 2017, she traveled to Cyprus with her boyfriend. Their mission? To reach the water's edge and document their experience. The video captures the difficulty of accessing the site, as well as the unsettling atmosphere of the remote location.
This is what like murder episodes are made out of, okay? Because it's always like a young American couple went on vacation to Cyprus. They went to see a red lake where nobody went, but they figured out why. And like it just never see us again.
It smells so bad here. It's like so gross. It just like feels like death. You know what I mean?
At one point, Sarah even stands just inches away from the toxic lake, snapping a photo near its ominous red waters. At the time, these videos were nothing more than travel vlogs. Interesting, sure, but not particularly eerie. That all changed in 2019. It was in April of that year when the dark truth about Red Lake was revealed. Heavy rainstorms had battered the region, causing widespread flooding, including in a nearby abandoned mine shaft. As the water levels rose, something unexpected surfaced: the decomposed remains of a woman. Her body had been dislodged from a shallow grave where it had been hidden for years, and she wasn't alone. As authorities searched the mine shaft, they discovered another body, this time belonging to a second woman. Both victims had been strangled to death, suggesting something far more sinister at play. Investigators quickly launched a full-scale search of the surrounding area, looking for any other possible victims. But it wasn't until they turned their attention to Red Lake that the true extent of the horror was uncovered.
Police in Cyprus investigating a suspected serial killer have uncovered another body close to an abandoned mine where the bodies of 2 other women have already been found. An officer in the Cypriot army has confessed to killing 5 women and the daughters of 2 of his victims.
5 more bodies were found beneath the water's surface. 3 of them were adult women, 2 of whom had also been strangled, just like the victims in the mine shaft. But the final 2 bodies were far more disturbing. They weren't women at all. They were children. As the case unfolded, it became clear that Cyprus had just uncovered the work of a serial killer. The nation was in shock, and it didn't take long before a suspect emerged. Nikos Metaxas, a military officer with a horrifying confession. Metaxas admitted to killing all 7 victims, each of whom he had met through a dating app. He targeted migrant women, women who had come to Cyprus looking for work, many of whom had few legal protections. He knew that if they disappeared, their cases wouldn't be taken seriously. And tragically, he was right. For years, law enforcement had failed to investigate the disappearances, allowing his crimes to go unnoticed. His most chilling claim? Metaxas stated that 2 of his victims had planned to pimp out their daughters. He claimed that he not only had to kill the mothers, but also the children themselves, as a twisted way of saving them. As horrifying as his crimes already were, there was one more disturbing detail: the way he disposed of his victims. Metaxas didn't just dump their bodies into the lake. Instead, for at least 4 of his victims, he bound them, stuffed them into suitcases, and threw them into the water, ensuring that they would sink. And this is where the travel videos take on a much darker meaning. Let's rewind to the beginning, to the footage from 2 Wheels for Rotors. The drone flies over the lake, capturing a strange object near the shoreline. It had gone unnoticed at the time, but in hindsight, it was something far more sinister than just debris. It was one of Metaxas's suitcases, one that had washed up years after being thrown into the water. But nothing compares to the chilling reality of Sarah Funk's video. As she crouched by the lake, just inches from the red-tinted water, she had no idea that she was standing right next to the trapped remains of a lost soul. She was unknowingly filming herself just feet away from one of Metaxas's victims, the lifeless body still sealed inside its suitcase beneath the surface. By the end of the investigation, all 7 victims had been identified and finally given a proper burial. Their names were Mary Rose Tiburcio, Ariane Palanas Lozano, Asmita Kadakabista, Elena Natalia Bunea, Maricar Valdez Arquiola, Livia Florentina Bunea, and Sierra Graze Sukaliuk. In June 2019, Nikos Metaxas was convicted and sentenced to 5 consecutive life terms. He will never walk free again. However, his crimes have left an eerie mark on YouTube forever. Unknowing creators had ventured deep into what they thought was a hidden gem of nature, only to later realize that they had been filming at a serial killer's dumping ground. Elevator mystery. It was a quiet January night in western Taiwan. The Yuan Land Finance and Economics Building, a 16-story tower, held a mix of office spaces and private residences. But past midnight, the place was nearly silent, except for the building manager, who was just settling in for another uneventful shift in the lobby. that calm didn't last long. Sometime after midnight, a woman rushed into the building with a small child. The manager didn't recognize her as a resident, and since the offices were all closed for the night, he stopped her and asked why she was there. But she barely acknowledged him. She just said they were there to meet a friend, then quickly stepped into the elevator and vanished from sight. Something about the encounter unsettled him. He couldn't explain it. He just had a bad feeling. Morning came, but the woman and her child never came back down. Out of curiosity, the manager checked the building's CCTV footage to see what floor they went to. That's when he saw something strange. Around 12:29 a.m., the woman is seen in the elevator, frantically pressing the button for the 11th floor. As the doors close, she takes off her coat and lays it on the floor. Then she does the same for the child. When the elevator reaches the 11th floor, she calmly removes her shoes, steps out with the child, and quickly walks down the hallway, heading in the direction of the stairwell. That stairwell leads to the roof. After that moment, they're never seen on camera again. The building manager, now seriously worried, calls the police. Based on what he saw, officers feared the worst, that the woman may have taken her own life and the life of her child by jumping from the rooftop. This theory was only reinforced by one small detail. In many East Asian cultures, it's considered respectful to remove your shoes before entering the afterlife. But when police searched the entire perimeter of the building, they found nothing. No bodies, no blood, no trace at all. They went back to the CCTV footage and reviewed every second of it. Almost all exits were covered by cameras. If the woman and her child had left the building, it would have been captured. But that elevator footage was the last time they were seen, anywhere. So, if they didn't jump, and they didn't leave, then, where were they? That question launched a full-scale search of the building. Police went door to door. Every room, every hallway, every stairwell. Nothing. No one had seen them. No one had heard anything. And when the sweep was finished, all they found were a few chilling clues. The coats and shoes left behind in the elevator, the woman's parked moped outside, and a single empty suitcase lying at the top of the stairwell leading to the roof. Police described the suitcase as suspicious, but never released its contents. In fact, after the initial report, they refused to confirm whether it was even connected to the case. It was like the woman and her child had just vanished. The building was searched again and again. As recently as 2013, authorities even checked the water pipes and tanks, taking inspiration from a different case on the other side of the world. But still, no trace of them. After the footage was released to the public, a man named Zhang came forward. He said the woman in the video was his wife. The child was their 4-year-old daughter. According to Zhang, her surname was Liu, and they had 4 children together. But their relationship was far from perfect. Some reports say they had a serious argument that night. Others suggest it may have been abusive, possibly prompting her to flee the house with their youngest child. Their eldest daughter later told reporters that Liu had said she was going to stay with a friend for a few days, but she never came back. Despite finally identifying the woman, police were no closer to solving the case. Since that night, there have been no confirmed sightings, no financial activity. The daughter's school records haven't changed. It's like they simply stopped existing. Locals have come up with 3 main theories. The first is supernatural. Some believe the pair crossed into another dimension, or were taken by something beyond our understanding. The belief is so widespread that the 11th floor of the building is almost completely empty. Only one family remains, and they say all their neighbors moved out, too scared to stay. The second theory is that the woman and child died in the building but were never found. Police considered this for years, but due to Taiwan's extreme summer heat, experts say a body would have been discovered by now, either by smell or accident. That brings us to the third theory. Somehow, they managed to leave the building without being seen. Some suggest there's a blind spot in the CCTV coverage, just big enough to sneak through. But that would take precise knowledge of the building's layout. And as far as anyone knows, Lou had never been there before. So how would she know where to go? And why would she go through all that effort? Even today, none of these questions have answers. Why that building? Why the 11th floor? Why leave behind their shoes and coats? And most of all, if they escaped, how have they never been seen again? No trace, no leads, just one grainy elevator video, and silence. An absolute conclusion is something that perhaps we may never get, and instead, we're simply left with this chilling video, which is undoubtedly one of YouTube's darkest. That's all for today, folks. If you want to see more of this creepy content, click on the video on screen.